dreams is to have, be debt free.
number of Republican senators say they want to see the House Ethics Committee report into Attorney General nominee Matt Gaetz. That committee was investigating allegations of sexual misconduct and drug use. ABC's Mary Alice Parks has more.
Sources telling us the committee was preparing to vote to release that report as early as this week. But then Gaetz resigned from Congress after being nominated by Trump, abruptly ending their investigation. House Speaker Mike Johnson on Friday, after spending the night at Mar-a-Lago with President-elect Trump, arguing now the report should be shelved.
President-elect also continues to fill out his White House staff. He's named Caroline Leavitt the White House press secretary. President Biden's in South America for the APEC summit. Then it's the G20 summit. That'll be in Brazil. But on the sidelines at APEC today, he'll meet with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. A federal judge in Texas blocked a Biden administration rule that would have allowed more workers to be eligible for overtime pay. This is ABC. The path once again clear for the lethal injection of Texas death row inmate Robert Roberson, convicted of killing his daughter in 2002.
Robert Roberson was set for execution last month when the Texas Supreme Court halted the procedure to allow the 57-year-old to testify before a legislative committee. In the end, Roberson did not appear, but his supporters did and argued that he was wrongly convicted and sentenced to die. Now the Supreme Court has removed its temporary block, saying its authority had been circumvented by state lawmakers. No new execution date has been set. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Dallas.
Another TV comedian's going to host the Oscars, but not Jimmy Kimmel, who's hosted the last 2 years. It'll be Conan O'Brien hosting the Academy Awards on ABC March 2nd for the first time in his career. And 20 years after his last professional fight, 58-year-old Mike Tyson lost a unanimous decision in Texas against YouTuber-turned-boxer Jake Paul. I'm Brian Clark, ABC News.
Now, Impact Traffic.
This report is sponsored by ReadyWhip.
Relatively light traffic across the Denver metro area right now with no major stalls, delays or crashes on any of your highways. No major stalls, delays or crashes off highway either. If you are heading to and from the airport, Pena Boulevard is wonderful and wide open both directions. If you're heading to and from Boulder, the Boulder Turnpike clean and green both directions as well. Fox 31 pinpoint weather. We're looking at partly cloudy skies today, high 52, overnight low 29. Currently 35 degrees. With your Impact Traffic and Weather, Vic D630 KHEL.
Topping off a dessert or swirling it onto hot cocoa, ReadyWhip is here to whip up some holiday cheer. ReadyWhip is made with real cream, so pick up a can or two. ReadyWhip.
I'm consumer advocate Tom Martino, and I've seen the wrong way to sell precious metals. Tangled necklaces, mismatched earrings, broken watches, coins. The wrong way is not knowing who you can trust. That's why I recommend David Ellis Jewelry on 3rd and Clayton. He'll weigh it and pay it. He'll even buy your fine jewelry and diamonds. I've known him 40 years.
is for you. We will help you. We'll try to solve your problem, answer your legal questions. 303-713-8255. And today is a very special day. Bell and Pollock has started streaming live on YouTube TV. You can go to youtubetv.com and get to our Bell and Pollock Injury Show channel. So it's our own channel, and you can do it right now. And we're live in the studio, and we welcome everybody that wants to do it. And we're going to be doing this, so it's an extra feature for you. We're going to show you a couple of new things today. As you know, we're talking about Car Accidents 101, but on our website, championsofthepeople.com, that's championsofthepeople.com. You know, we've told you many times we have 10 injury books there on different injury subjects. They're free. You can download an e-copy free anytime you want. If you want a hard copy, you just tell us you want a hard copy, we'll mail it to you. You can even drop by our law firm. If we have time, we'll buy you a cup of coffee, and we'll give you a free book if you want a hard copy. If you want us to mail it to you, we'll mail it to you. We got a couple of examples here today I brought into the studio. We have one on premises liability, landowner's responsibility, and Brad and I did a show on that recently. So you can get this on our website, championsofthepeople.com. It's premises liability. This is one example of our books that we write. They're free. And this took a long time to write this book, especially this one, because we went through the little bit of the history, which we don't normally do. I've got another book here. It's called Underinsured Motorist Coverage, which we preach all the time. These are all free, folks. Okay, so you can get them on our website, championsofthepeople.com. I got another one here that you can see. It's called Cowards of the Street, Hit and Run. If you're a victim of a hit and run, you need this book. You need Bell and Pollock. You need a legal game plan. And speaking of that, I don't have it with me, but we wrote a book called Legal Game Plan. Because you need a strategy against the insurance companies. They're going to try to beat and defeat your injury claim. Right? All right, you know our series, Car Accidents 101. We call it Car Accidents 101, but it applies to any trauma. It can apply to a big rig truck accident, a bicycle accident. Right? It can apply to premises liability that I just showed you the book on. So we call it Car Accidents 101, but applies to any trauma. Right? And today we're on part 21. In part 21, we're dealing with concussions. All right. So grab your coffee. Think about this for just a second. You're in an accident, which we don't wish on you, but you're rear-ended. You're on your way home. Some idiot runs into the back of you. Boom. So you're starting to feel a little foggy. Your thinking isn't so clear as it was a few minutes ago. You're wondering what to do. It's confusing anyway, being in a crash, but this is a little bit extra fogginess. Do you have a concussion? Well, wait a minute, Gary, Brad, I don't have a concussion. I mean, I thought concussions were for NFL football players, not me in a car. So, Brad, let's talk about that a second. Concussions can happen without hitting your head and with rapid acceleration and deceleration and are very, very serious.
Yeah, there's it's quite often you can get a concussion just due to impact or change in momentum. Sudden deceleration when cars collide will quite often result in a concussion or some kind of potential brain injury. You get shaken up. You don't realize a lot of different things that are going on. You might be a little confused. It might not have an onset right away. So you're wandering around out there trying to deal with the police and trying to deal with a crash and injure people. And instead, what you're really having is the results of a concussion. It can take a while to reveal itself. So don't think if I have that sudden deceleration or if I have that sudden change of momentum and my head has just gone forward and back that you can't have a concussion. Quite often, I think just about everybody, Gary, knows what shaken baby syndrome is.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah, and but people don't believe that can happen to an adult, and it can. The bottom line is that it's happening to an adult and crashes more often than we like to think. And we at Bell and Pollock, we have certain lists and certain forms we give to our people who've been through an injury to see if they're suffering from any of the likelihood of being having their brain smashed into their skull. And that's what's happened. The brain has been smashed into the skull as a result of the sudden deceleration. And that's causing people to have difficulties. One of the first ones that I think is difficult to deal with is the depression that can come on. People have depression. You don't realize they're having it not because they're upset over the car crash and not because their favorite car is now in the shop getting fixed or maybe being towed to the junkyard, and not because they're having to spend some time in the hospital or to rearrange their schedule because they're having to go to the doctor rather than being able to go to other activities they had planned, all of which will cause depression. But they're actually having it because they had a closed head injury.
Right, and depression and concussions. Concussions are a neurological event. Okay, so doctors look for the nervous system symptoms, if you will. But Brad just said a couple of very, very important things. Look, symptoms. We talk at Bell and Pollock. We talk about anatomical, orthopedic injuries, and those are what doctors call acute. Bam! They happen right now. You've been injured. I mean, you've been rear-ended. Your back starts to hurt, and maybe it doesn't hurt as bad as it does tomorrow morning, but it starts to hurt. You've suffered an orthopedic injury, acute, not chronic. Chronic means long-standing, been there for a long time. Not talking about that. We're talking about something acute. But concussion symptoms, and Brad just said it a minute ago, can onset over time. What does that mean? They can onset the minute you're impacted. You could have a headache. That's a symptom. But unlike orthopedic injuries, which surface immediately, basically, the injury does. The pain might get worse the next few days, but concussion symptoms can occur. A new one can occur in a week, a month, 6 months, 4 months, right? So today we're teaching about concussions, car accidents 101. We got a new feature for you, right? We're on live YouTube TV. You can stream it live. You can do it right now. We've got it all set up in the studio and ready to go. You can go to the channel is the Bell and Pollock Injury Show channel. So you get on YouTube TV, go to the Bell and Pollock Injury Show channel, and bingo, there you are, and we'll be glad to interact with you and talk with you. It's an extra feature we provide for you. Today we're talking about concussions. Brad, let's talk about this, because when you have a concussion, you don't have to hit your head. Sometimes people do. Sometimes they're spun around with a car, they hit their head on the window, maybe more than once. Sometimes they hit it on a headrest, but you don't have to hit your head. It's called the coup contra coup concept. It's called rapid acceleration or deceleration, and I think you said it. But, you know, there are the EMTs come, and they can't make a full assessment whether or not you have a concussion at the scene. And one more thing, Brad, I want you to talk about the scene and when you start to feel these symptoms, when you're talking about fogginess. But I have used in closing argument in cases, in brain injury cases, I bring to court a old-fashioned Tupperware thing full of Jell-O. And just imagine that. You take this Jell-O and you shake it, and that's exactly what's happening to the soft tissue in your brain when it impacts the hard curvature of your skull. So, Brad, let's talk about what happens at the scene.
Well, when you're talking about the scene, the first thing we're talking about is the crash itself. And like you said, it is like the Tupperware with Jell-O in it, and your brain's it's not it's got room inside the skull for your brain to exist and for your brain to move around. We don't want our brain edging up and being stuffed into the skull so much that you can't have any movement. But it's not meant to be twisted and smashed into the skull. It's not meant to have that kind of insult to it.
There are jagged lines. If you ever look inside the skull, there's jagged lines. It's not very forgiving. I mean, when you go forward and you go backwards and your brain moves forward and backwards, the skull is not forgiving to the soft tissue membranes of the brain.
Right. And so, when you're having it, you can have your brain smash into part of your skull. This can happen. It happens in football games. It happens in car crashes. It happens in a number of different things that go on. Car crashes can be some of the worst. I mean, quite often we get defense-related arguments where they try to compare it to a football game, and your head's having a whole lot different impact when you're in a car crash than if you're in a football game. And you know, you don't even have the protection to your head that you do in a football game. And when you're being smashed around in a car crash, you can be hit as somebody going 30, 40 miles an hour that smashes into you and causes your head to go back and forth in an acceleration deceleration manner that is very significant to how your brain's going inside your skull. That doesn't happen in football. You don't have somebody hitting at 40 miles an hour. I mean, you know, we think these players are fast, but believe me, they're not making that contact at that speed.
They're not 40 miles an hour.
And going into people at that rate. And if they are, you've got players who are bracing against it. Crashes usually happen where you don't get a chance to brace, where you don't get a chance to try to stop the movement. And then what you get diagnosed is a mild traumatic brain injury. And, for years I've been saying mild traumatic brain injury is anything but mild. And I hate it when they call it that. And it's a medical term to call it a mild traumatic brain injury. It's a very significant injury that's occurred to a person.
Exactly right. Okay, the Bell and Pollock Legal Show. Gary Bell, Brad Pollock. Today, we're streaming live on YouTube TV. You can go to YouTube TV, go to the Bell and Pollock Injury channel, and you can get us right there. We'll do it for you as an extra feature. You can give us a call at 303-713-8255. After the break, we're going to teach you about the Glasgow Coma Scale. We're going to teach you about the scene. We're going to teach you about the emergency room. And then in this show, we're going to show you how insurance companies try to defeat and beat your injury claim with a concussion. We've done that on other orthopedic injuries. Today, we're talking about a concussion. Hang on. We'll be right back.
Today's legal question is brought to you by Bell and Pollock.
You're injured by a hit-and-run driver, so what do? Always call the police. Use your phone camera to document the scene. And report this to your own insurance company right away. At Bell & Pollock, we educate and advocate. We wrote a book called Cowards of the Street, Hit and Run. Get it free on our website, championsofthepeople.com.
If you've been injured in a car crash, call Bell & Pollock at 303-795-5900 or visit online at championsofthepeople.com. Today's legal question is brought to you by Bell & Pollock.
You're injured by a hit-and-run driver, so what do? Always call the police. Use your phone camera to document the scene. And report this to your own insurance company right away. At Bell & Pollock, we educate and advocate. We wrote a book called Cowards of the Street, Hit and Run. Get it free on our website, championsofthepeople.com.
If you've been injured in a car crash, call Bell & Pollock at 303-795-5900 or visit online at championsofthepeople.com. Today's legal question is brought to you by Bell & Pollock.
You're injured by a hit-and-run driver, so what do? Always call the police. Use your phone camera to document the scene. And report this to your own insurance company right away. At Bell & Pollock, we educate and advocate. We wrote a book called Cowards of the Street, Hit and Run. Get it free on our website, championsofthepeople.com.
If you've been injured in a car crash, call Bell & Pollock at 303-795-5900 or visit online at championsofthepeople.com. Today's legal question is brought to you by Bell & Pollock.
You're injured by a hit-and-run driver, so what do? Always call the police. Use your phone camera to document the scene. And report this to your own insurance company right away. At Bell & Pollock, we educate and advocate. We wrote a book called Cowards of the Street, Hit and Run. Get it free on our website, championsofthepeople.com.
If you've been injured in a car crash, call Bell & Pollock at 303-795-5900 or visit online at championsofthepeople.com. Today's legal question is brought to you by Bell & Pollock.
You're injured by a hit-and-run driver, so what do? Always call the police. Use your phone camera to document the scene. And report this to your own insurance company right away. At Bell & Pollock, we educate and advocate. We wrote a book called Cowards of the Street, Hit and Run. Get it free on our website, championsofthepeople.com.
If you've been injured in a car crash, call Bell & Pollock at 303-795-5900 or visit online at championsofthepeople.com. Today's legal question is brought to you by Bell & Pollock.
You're injured by a hit-and-run driver, so what do? Always call the police. Use your phone camera to document the scene. And report this to your own insurance company right away. At Bell & Pollock, we educate and advocate. We wrote a book called Cowards of the Street, Hit and Run. Get it free on our website, championsofthepeople.com.
If you've been injured in a car crash, call Bell and Pollock at 303-795-5900 or visit online at championsofthepeople.com. Today's legal question is brought to you by Bell and Pollock.
You're injured by a hit-and-run driver, so what do? Always call the police. Use your phone camera to document the scene and report this to your own insurance company right away. At Bell and Pollock, we educate and advocate. We wrote a book called Cowards of the Street, Hit and Run. Get it free on our website, championsofthepeople.com.
If you've been injured in a car crash, call Bell and Pollock at 303-795-5900 or visit online at championsofthepeople.com. Today's legal question is brought to you by Bell and Pollock.
You're injured by a hit-and-run driver, so what do? Always call the police. Fasten your seatbelt. The Gary Bell and Brad Pollock Show, the Bell and Pollock Show. The only show of its kind. We are injury attorneys in our day lives. You can call us at 303-713-8255. And as I said earlier, we're streaming live on YouTube TV. You can get on there. You can make comments. Just go to the Bell and Pollock Injury Show channel. So YouTubeTV.com, the Bell and Pollock Injury Show channel, and you're rocking and rolling with us live TV right here in the studio. How exciting is that? And we got a comment from Apache on YouTube TV about symptoms. So if you want to call in, we'll be glad to help you there. And if not, then we'll be glad to help you otherwise. You have symptoms. And so we want to talk about this for a second, but first, every weekend on 4 different radio venues in the state of Colorado, we do our 1 hour long Champions of the People Injury Show. It's 1 hour long, and we get into detail on different subjects. And we've been doing this for years. And today on KOA, we usually air from 10 to 11, prime time. We're going to be pushed to 5 o'clock, so it's going to be 5 to 6 o'clock on KOA, and we're going to be talking about how do you recover for your injuries. And the reason for that is the Colorado Buffalo Utah game, right? That's a big one, and we're glad to drop down in the time period. You can still listen to it. Have you ever thought? You hear all these attorneys on TV, hear all these injury attorneys. Have you ever thought, well, how do I really recover money, compensation for my injuries? How does it really work? Well, guess what? That's our 1 hour long topic today on KOA, 8:50 a.m., 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Right here today. And we're on other venues. Okay, Brad, let's go back to the scene. You're in an accident, you're foggy. I want you to cover the symptoms in just a minute because we can't list every symptom of a concussion, but I want you to understand these are necessary to be reported. But here's a trick the insurance companies use on you. Here's a trick. You have the accident, you call the ambulance takes some time to get there. They're good, but it takes some time to get there. And so when they get there, they give you what they call the Glasgow Coma Scale test. Remember, concussions are connected to the nervous system. So the Glasgow Coma Scale test measures certain nervous system reactions, pupils, verbal response, memory, etc. Well, they say, okay, we did a Glasgow Coma Scale on the scene. When we got there, it was a perfect 15. Was it perfect 15 when you got to the emergency room? But it wasn't a perfect 15 at the time of the crash, Brad. That's the big deal about the Glasgow Coma Scale. It might be perfect by the time you get to the ER, but it wasn't perfect, and nobody measured it at the time of the crash.
Well, yeah, they're not going to measure it because they can't. You don't have a medical professional. Maybe somebody in the ambulance is going to be able to do some kind of measurement or look at it, but it's going to be a matter that you're at the scene of the crash. I mean, the Glasgow Coma Scale is based on 3 parameters. It's eye response, verbal response, and best motor response. Now, really, if you have somebody that's trained and one of your ambulance people is able to give that can give that score, they can do it. But it's going to be very difficult to be doing it with everything else that's going on with respect to the crash. And you're trying to then see how people are doing with their eye response and with their verbal response, their best motor response. The Glasgow Coma Scale, so, Gary, you said it's perfect 15. It's a 3 to 15 score with 3.
3 being you're in a coma. I mean, a bad coma.
Well, yeah, you're not responding.
You're nothing.
So,
right.
But actually, even if it's an 8 or a 9, it can be low. That's not good. You want your Glasgow Coma Scale to be up around 12, 13. It shows responsiveness. It shows that you're functioning. But that's an interpretation of trying to figure out how the insult to your brain was affected, and how the rest of your body's functioning, because your brain starts with all the functioning to your body. That's it. And so there's going to be a number of different tests they're going to try and give, and I think you do find the emergency people do trying to give a Glasgow coma scale.
Of course they do.
But if a Glasgow coma scale is low, even I'd say 7 or 8 at the scene of the crash, you can figure there may be some residual effects that you have to address when you're trying to determine the nature and extent of your client's injuries, because you can't just say, well, it got better by the time they got in the ambulance or by the time they got to the hospital, because once again, you got different people even giving the score and interpreting the score. And so you've got to take a look at it.
Well, I'll tell you what. So the point we're trying to teach you right now, and then Bell and Pollock, we educate and advocate for you. The point we're trying to teach you is that the insurance company is going to try to beat your claim. And they don't like concussion claims because they pretty much call them the invisible injury, right? Unless you have a brain bleed or subarachnoid hematoma or similar, and then it shows up positive on a CT scan, then it doesn't show anything. Maybe some ischemic white material, but it really doesn't show anything definitive. So they call it the invisible injury. There's ways to prove this, folks, but you have to have a legal game plan to prove it. We have preached this so many times. You have to have a legal game plan to prove how the accident happened, how your injuries happened, what the mechanism of injury was. But now we're talking about how they do this. They say your Glasgow coma scale when you got to the emergency room was a perfect 15. Therefore, you could not have and don't have a concussion. End of story, goodbye. No. Bzzzt. Not end of story. Wrong. That's wrong. You can tell them that's wrong. We tell them that's wrong. Right. Brad, let's cover some of the symptoms that you have from a concussion. We can't cover them all, but listen, folks, you need a game plan on your symptoms. And we're not talking about making things up here. We're not talking about all that. We're talking about legitimate symptoms, because what we find so many times is our clients don't report all of the symptoms. They might report a headache. They might report being foggy. Brad, let's cover some of them so people can understand.
Well, sure. A lot of times symptoms are reported to us by loved ones who are seeing the problems with the person who's been injured. You can have the physical symptoms that I think we're talking about right now, like the headaches, dizziness. You can even have balance problems, blurred vision. Of course, if that's not told to you, you don't know the person's having that. Nausea, once again, usually if a person's nauseated very much, it's going to show in the way they act and what they do through the day. Vomiting, and something that's really used a lot is the sensitivity to light or noise, where you get an unequal pupil size. Now, the first thing that clues you off is the sensitivity to light. People are shading their heads, or they don't like the lights on, or they're trying to dim the lights. And that's usually a sign right there. If you see that, to go test the rest of it, the rest of the physical matters. Ask the person, do you have a headache? Are you dizzy? Are you having balance problems? Are you having blurred vision? Do you feel like you want to throw up? And you try and get more out of them. That's the physical side. You got cognitive side. You've got confusion, disorientation, difficult concentrating, or memory problems. And once again, a lot of times that's not going to show up right there at the scene. It may not even show up as you're being taken to the hospital, because a lot of people have a norm, and when you're trying to figure out if they've deviated from that norm, it's going to take loved ones or people who know the person to be able to talk to about it. And then you've got the emotional side, where you have anxiety and irritability and mood changes, and sleeping. Got the sleep side, where you have people sleeping more and falling asleep. You're not going to see that right from the crash. If they're dozing off in the ambulance, or they're dozing off at the hospital while they're waiting, that isn't necessarily somebody who just got tired and everything that happened caused him to get tired. That could be a sign of a head injury.
All right, so what are we teaching you right now? We're teaching you that concussion symptoms don't always happen, as doctors say, acutely, meaning right away, emergently, They appear and can onset over time. Hello? They can onset over time. You can have a symptom in a month of memory loss that you never had before. But you see, the insurance companies say you didn't have those symptoms in the emergency room. You didn't have those symptoms in your first 2 doctor visits. Therefore, you don't have a concussion. Yes, you do. Therefore, we're not going to pay you for your concussion. Yes, you are. You need attorneys who understand the medicine, understand the concussive protocol, and can help you. With what? With what? A legal game plan. I know you got this. Take a sip of coffee. We're going to give you a test when we get back from the break. It's the old Bell and Pollock Saturday morning test, and we're live on YouTube TV on the Bell and Pollock Injury Channel, all for you. We'll be right back.
Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell and Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell and Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell and Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell and Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell and Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell and Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell and Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell and Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell and Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell and Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell and Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell and Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell and Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell and Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell and Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell and Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you.
Coffee and the Bell and Pollock Legal Show. And now we're streaming live on YouTube TV. You can do that. We're doing it for you. It's an extra feature for the show. You can get to the Bell and Pollock Injury Show channel, and you can watch us live in the studio right now. We just had somebody that commented on YouTube TV. They wanted our phone number at our office to talk to us about a case. Our phone number is 303-795-5900. That's 303-795-5900. That goes right to Bell and Pollock. We'll be glad to talk to you anytime. That's what we do, day or night. You can call our law firm anytime, 24/7. If you've had an injury or you got a question about a case, we are glad to help you. And we've said before, we're glad to help you if you just got a question on insurance coverages. I've had that happen. Brad's had that happen. We will talk to you. No, we're not kidding. We will talk to you. Okay, today we're talking about concussions. We're still doing Car Accidents 101. This is part 21. Brad covered some of the symptoms of concussions right before the break. Okay, so Brad, what we found over the years, I want you to emphasize to everybody that since the insurance companies think it's an invisible injury, you can't see it. You had a perfect Glasgow coma scale of 15 when you got to the emergency room. Therefore, you must not have a concussion. So it's important that you legitimately, truthfully, and thoroughly report all of your symptoms.
Well, that's true. You've got to be able to report the symptoms and talk about what's going on and being able to identify what you're going through. Sometimes you don't know what you're going through because you're still living the events of the crash.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to talk to Eric in just a minute, but Brad, I can't tell you how many times we've had a husband and wife, or father, daughter, whatever, family, and we're talking to the injured person about these symptoms, and they're pretty much saying, well, I don't think I have any of those, and their spouse says, oh, yeah, you do. You have every one of them. So sometimes those closest to you know your symptoms better than you do. That sounds kind of crazy, but it's kind of the way it works. All right, join us live is Eric from Caitlin's. What's cooking over at Caitlin's, Eric?
I'm always cooking. How are you guys doing?
All right, great.
Let me guess what you're cooking right now. You're cooking a bunch of breakfast burritos, aren't you, Eric?
You know what? How did you know? How did you know? I just rolled.
Well, there must be
burritos.
something happening I don't know about.
I am picking up 100 breakfast burritos from Eric today to take the Littleton High School football team and the parents at breakfast.
Couldn't be happier to do it, by the way.
Yeah, so I figure it's really great to give you a call in the middle of you putting together those breakfast burritos, Eric.
Okay, no, Eric, I'm taking a timeout. Brad, I'm taking a timeout. I got to say this. My partner, he has flown under the radar for so many years. He's going to kill me. I'm saying this on live radio and TV. He's going to kill me, but it doesn't matter. He has flown under the radar. He gives more money to more people. He does Christmas events, Thanksgiving events. He doesn't get any recognition for it. He doesn't do anything. He just does it. Therefore, I said it, and if I'm not alive next week, you know what happened to me.
There's my recognition.
All right, let's talk about Caitlin's restaurant.
All right, guys, let's talk about Caitlin's restaurant. Let's talk about breakfast and lunch. We do it all every day. You can get breakfast and lunch any time of the day. We start at 7 o'clock in the morning. We wrap it up around 2 p.m. You can get it for here. You can get it to go, but it's all breakfast and all lunch. So maybe it's a Greek omelet. Maybe it's a Denver omelet. Maybe it's a Mile High. Maybe it's Eggs Benedict. Maybe it's a handheld burrito times 100. I don't know. Maybe we can do that for you, too. Give me a little bit of advance notice. I can get that done for you, but we're loving to do it. I can't guarantee you anything on the patio today, but the flat screens are on, TVs are ready to go, and we're hoping to have a great weekend.
Make sure you got that CU game on, Eric.
Absolutely. Sports all over the place. Absolutely. We love to talk sports, love to talk everything here. We can't wait to have everybody come in. We hope we have a good turnout. It looks pretty mild. I think Tuesday is when the weather rolls in, so take advantage of the weekend. Come down, get a Bloody Mary, get a mimosa. Come hang out with us.
Well, okay, so you made him 100 handmade burritos. That's so like him. He flies under the radar. He does all this for all these people. Nobody knows about it, so I just exposed him. But do you have time to make 2 burritos for me?
Sure. What do you want?
I want the homemade red chili sauce, homemade green chili sauce. Anyway.
Come to Littleton High School team breakfast, and you can have a burrito.
Where are you located, Eric?
Guys, we're 4379 East Mississippi Avenue. That's 1 block east of Colorado Boulevard. That's in the Glendale Shopping Center. Let me just throw a couple things out there, too. If you can't come hang out with us, we understand. We forgive you. You can do it on Facebook. You can order it online on website. You can call me 303-798-6900. 6600 and place the order right over the phone. But like guys have been telling you for years, no matter how you do it, you're going to love it every bite of the way.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, guys.
All right, you're listening to the Bell and Pollock Legal Show. Today we're talking about Car Accidents 101, Part 21, concussions. So we've covered the scene. We've covered important things for you to know that these symptoms are important. These symptoms have to be reported. These symptoms have to be in the medical records. And why? Because later, when Bell and Pollock presents your injury claim, we're going to rely on the medical records, and the insurance company is going to read those symptoms. And so when they say to you, never had a concussion, there are the symptoms. It is a symptom-driven complex. It is a symptom-driven event. Right? Okay, Brad just covered some of the symptoms. So, Brad, what happens when, let's talk about, well, I didn't really report them to my doctor. I had the symptoms. They're not in the records. And what happens to your injury claim there when you have another person that actually reported all your symptoms, and they're in the medical records, and you can present that and get them paid thorough compensation from the insurance company for their injury?
Well, you hope that person who was seeing it comes and talks to you, or at least gets your client to come talk to you and give you that information that they're going through. We don't know it when they come into our office. Sometimes we've had people who go, yeah, you obviously got a head injury. But people with really mild head injuries, they come in, they're suffering from them, but they're brand new to us. So their mood swings and their personalities are new to us. We don't have the ability to necessarily diagnose a head injury, but your loved one does. Your loved one can tell whether or not you're having anxiety.
That's where we hear it all the time.
Or whether that's just a normal thing. Your loved one will tell us whether or not these are memory problems that they've had all their life, or if this is new to the crash. Your loved one will tell you whether or not they're misplacing things at home and whether they're forgetting where they put things. Your loved one will tell us whether or not they're having problems with light sensitivity. Sometimes we can tell that in our office. I mean, I've had a number of times where they've come in and they've been shading their head. They've got their head over their eyes, and I'm going, you've got sensitivity to light. We need you to get checked with a number of other symptoms. And that's when I'll say, I want your loved one in here. I want somebody who lives with you in here. And if you don't live with somebody, I want you to get the people you work with in here. I want to talk to the people who can tell me whether or not you're having memory lapses and whether or not you're having problems with or having difficulties with problem solving or an inability to concentrate. And I've got at least 37 different symptoms I can go through to find out. Let's just round it out to 40. I've got 40 symptoms.
Let's round it up to 40.
And get information on whether or not the person is going through a difficult time or whether or not they've got something new that's the result of this car crash.
You need attorneys who actually care about the situation. I tell you, our staff is well trained on this. We're well trained on this. We know the medicine, but they always know when we have somebody in our office interviewing them from a car crash with concussive symptoms because we're interviewing them in a dark room. We turn all the lights off. And they go, wow, that feels better. Those are real. That's real. You got to prove that to the insurance company. You have to do it. You have to have a legal game plan. We preach that all the time. We trademark protected legal game plan. We have a book entitled Legal Game Plan. You can get it on our website, championsofthepeople.com, for free. And by the way, you've always heard this. You know, in the NFL, they come out at halftime and they say they made some adjustments to their game plan. Yeah? Well, you need adjustments to your legal game plan and your injuries as you go. That's what Bell and Pollock does for you. But in order to adjust your legal game plan, you must, in the first instance, have one. Hello? Does that make sense? You have to have one. At Bell and Pollock, we give you one, and we adjust it for you, for your recovery, for your family. All right, today we're streaming live on YouTube TV. You can watch us there. It's on the Bell and Pollock Injury Channel. We're glad to do it. You can comment there. Our telephone number, we were asked, so we'll do it. At our office is 303-795-5900. We're here to help you. Gary Bell, Brad Pollock. We've been doing this for years. We'll be right back.
Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell & Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell & Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell & Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell & Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell & Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell & Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell & Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell & Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell & Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell & Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell & Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell & Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell & Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell & Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work for you. Visit championsofthepeople.com or call 303-795-5900. Been in a car accident? You need to hear this. Don't talk to insurance company until you speak with us. Bell & Pollock is very experienced and will advocate on your behalf and set up your case for success. You need to contact Bell & Pollock now. Our expert personal injury attorneys will fight to get you the highest compensation possible for your injuries. Put our experience to work.
Gary Bell, Brad Pollock. Our website is championsofthepeople.com. One more time, we have 10 books, 10 injury books on different injury subjects on our website, championsofthepeople.com. We're streaming live on YouTube TV today in the studio, and I want to show you one of our books right here. This book is called Hit and Run, Cowards of the Street. It's yours. If you have any issue with a hit and run, you can get this book. You can call us. And when you call Bell & Pollock, we give you a free initial consultation. You've heard that from attorneys. But we give you a free, significant, meaningful legal game plan. A game plan. That's one of our books. Here, the other book is we wrote a book on underinsured motorist coverage, a mandatory coverage you must have. We have a book. It's free. Go to our website, championsofthepeople.com, and you can download an e-copy free. If you want a hard copy of any of our books, just give us a call anytime. We're glad to do it. Today we're talking about concussions. All right, and I want to tell you one more thing. If you come into Bell and Pollock, we understand concussions. We understand how they work. We've proven them many times. One of the things you get from us is a brain injury questionnaire. I've got it right here. It's a brain injury questionnaire, and we have all kinds of questions about visual perception, executive function, memory impairment, cognitive functioning. It helps you, it helps us assess and sort your brain injury, your TBI, and do not ever let, and Brad, I want you to comment on this in a minute, don't ever let these doctors or insurance companies tell you, well, it was a mild TBI, because the medical science field they only have 3 categories: mild, moderate, and severe. Severe, you're in a coma. Moderate, you're almost in a coma. So everything is pretty much classified mild, but it doesn't mean mild, Brad. You have to understand that to be able to prove it.
It's the most misleading terminology I've ever seen for an injury.
Exactly.
Is to say it's mild. It's not mild. You can have major difficulties in your life with a mild traumatic brain injury. You can have major difficulties in your functioning and in your reasoning and your ability to talk or understand and have memory problems. And you'll have visual changes, and you'll have sleep disturbances, you'll have dizziness, you have a headache. When you have all those things, to call that a mild traumatic brain injury has been something that for 30 years I've been upset with. But, I can't change it.
None of us can change it, but we have to live with it. But that's what the insurance company says, Brad. It's a mild TBI. Well, that doesn't mean it's not important. It doesn't mean it's not debilitating, right?
Well, they especially like to say that in front of a jury, because you get a jury of people who obviously they don't have a background and experience or necessarily have one in closed head injuries and traumatic brain injuries. And so what they like to say throughout the entire trial is mild traumatic brain injury, mild traumatic injury, mild traumatic brain injury. Like that's the thing. And you've got to get a doctor to explain what we mean by mild traumatic brain injury and understand that that's a very, very difficult term to live with, because it's making it sound like you're a malingerer, like you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, like you should overcome this problem, like you should be able to overcome these difficulties you're having. Well, I've been around people with these injuries, and when they're at a point where they can only in a dark room try to lay around and sometimes maybe have something simple on TV but not do anything else, that's not mild. They call it mild traumatic brain injury, but that's not mild. When they can't remember things, they go into their job and they can't remember things. They can't remember their job. They can't remember what they're supposed to be doing. They can't remember the intricacies of it. That's not mild.
No, it's not mild. It's very significant, very debilitating.
And so to be calling it that has always been a very difficult term for me to deal with. But you get through with it. You do what you need to do to be able to address the problem.
Okay, what have we taught you today? Let's just have a brief review, and then we might have a quiz or a test for you, right? What have we taught you today? You can have concussion at the scene. You can have concussion without hitting your head. You can have a concussion with rapid acceleration and deceleration. The symptoms are not always there immediately. They're not, the doctors say acute. That means immediate. Chronic means long-lasting, long-standing. Acute, they're not always acute. They can onset over time. If you injure your left ankle and you injure your left hip, it's going to onset right away. And right away does not mean, it can mean in the first few days, but it doesn't mean 2 months later. But head injury symptoms can onset. What else have we taught you? Symptoms are important. This is a symptom-driven mechanism, a symptom-driven proof. So, Brad, let's just educate everybody. When we start to prove a brain injury case, in addition to an orthopedic case, to the insurance company, we go through the medical records, we extract the symptoms that were reported and treated, and that's our first step.
Yeah, that's the first thing you have to do. And you have to establish a baseline. Once again, I am reluctant to ever try to compare brain injuries in football teams or a football player compared to one of a driver, because they are different. They're very much different. But one of the things that they do in high school football, I don't know if they realize this, but every participant fills out a form at the beginning of the season so they can establish the baseline of how that person operates in their mental functioning. And then if they think they've had a head injury, they have to fill out that form again with the head injury to show what the injuries are. And then what they have to do is they have to fill out that form and keep filling it out until they get back to normal. When you're dealing with somebody who has a head injury, first of all, no decent lawyer lets a client walk into their office and deals with them in person without looking for the symptoms, without looking for problems, without looking for the difficulties that person might be going through. Because for them, they're groggy, or it's not really clear what they're talking about, or they're having problems with light sensitivity, or they're having problems with their emotions. So you've got to see those and recognize that every crash has a potential of being a closed head injury.
Right. So you need attorneys that understand the medicine. We've said that for years. We do. You need attorneys that have been down this road before. We have. I mean, we can help you, right? We have a brain injury questionnaire. We have a whole protocol. And so when we tell you hear all these attorneys say, we'll give you a free consultation. I mean, at Bell & Pollock, we mean it. We give you a free consultation, but we give you a free, meaningful, significant legal game plan. And how do we do that? You have to know what we're talking about here. If we're talking about concussions just in this last hour, we just touched the tip of the iceberg. Right? Exactly. Go to our website, championsofthepeople.com. All of our books are there. All of our information is there. This show is here for you. We do all this to give you the information to educate and advocate for you and your family, because we are your champions of the people. We'll see you next week.
Today's legal question is brought to you by Bell & Pollock.
You're injured by a hit-and-run driver, so what do? Always call the police. Use your phone camera to document the scene, and report this to your own insurance company right away. At Bell & Pollock, we educate and advocate.